Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, hello, everyone. Stuart Best here, and we have tonight Larry Taylor, and we have Augusto Perez. This ought to be a dynamite show. There's so much to talk about. Anyway, how are you doing there, Augusto?
Hey, Stuart. Good to be back with you, and good to be with you again, Larry.
Good to be glad.
Larry,
glad
you with
to
us?
be back with you guys.
Where do we want to start? There's so much going on. Augusto, you've had several visions of late that might be a good place to start. Would you like to share anything about that?
Sure. Thank you, Stuart. We were talking before the program started about the lateness of the hour. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I believe in prayer. I believe in intercessory prayer. I have been doing a lot of that lately. I just have been feeling such a heaviness, such a burden this last few days, this last couple of weeks especially, 2 or 3 weeks. And, in the 4th of July of this last month of July, I just had a tremendous burden on me, and I may have shared some of this before, but I went into deep travail, deep intercessory prayer, very, very heavy, and it wouldn't. I just couldn't shake it. And when that happens, I know that is the Lord wanting me to just steal away and find a place to be alone with Him in my secret place and pray. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. And so I spent some time there, and it just wouldn't lift. And then until finally I broke through, and I felt some release and in the spirit. And then when that happened, and I thought, well, praise God, now I can go back to to work. I can go back to to what I was doing because I was working. And when I was about to do that, I see this vision. And what the vision was very, very, very clear. And it was this big angel, and he had a huge sword in his hand. And he was, with both hands, he took the sword, and he plunged it on the earth. And the earth, I saw it was the center of America. And when he did that, I saw blood coming up from the ground. And when I saw that, I said, oh, no. And I started travailing again. And I said, Lord, how can this be? I've just been praying. I've just been interceding, And as I continue to intercede and continue to travail in the Spirit, just pleading with the Lord, the word of the Lord came to me. And this is what he said, Stuart. And he was very, very loving, but very firm, and like a father talks to a son, and basically what he said to me was, there is no more time, son. There is no more time. And when he said that, I knew what he meant, and that whatever has been holding back this thing from happening, it's no longer going to be held back. It has just, it's going to happen now. And so I said, okay, Father, whatever. We tried. We have really fought the fight. We have really battled this thing to the end. I have gotten emails from intercessors all over telling me how much they have prayed, but that they have been just hit. They're being hit left and right, one thing after another. It's all over. Every single one of them has been hit hard, either physically, financially, in their homes, with their kids. You name it, persecution, you name it. And I have never seen anything like this. it's like the hounds of hell have been loosed on God's children, especially those that are, fighting the fight, that are there in the front lines. And so, I really believe now that this thing is going on. This thing is going to happen. And when I say this thing, I mean the New World Order, the martial law, New World Order, persecution, all these FEMA camps, all these things may happen like dominoes, because, like the Lord said, there's no more time. And this last Tuesday, I received one particular vision and dream that someone sent. I came across my desk that confirmed just that. And it had to do with this intercessor saw herself being pregnant. And the pregnancy symbolized the birthing. In other words, the baby that was in her womb symbolized the New World Order. That's the baby.
Yes.
And she shared in that dream and vision that she was given that that a few months ago, like 2-3 months ago, it felt like that pregnancy came to a halt, like the baby was not, like at first she felt like that baby was going to be born soon, but then all of a sudden it stopped, and she said. Yeah, and then she said to herself, maybe this has been stopped. Maybe this has been, for the moment, this has been stopped by the prayers of the saints. And I remember that we did a show. I don't know if it was with you, or one we did with Larry and me, where we were talking about that, and Larry was sharing the fact that I feel like we did not pray hard enough. We were not able to stop this thing, and like we failed, and he blamed himself, and I blame myself, and all the intercessors, we are all guilty because we didn't succeed, basically. And I did not understand all that. Maybe Larry didn't even understand himself all the extent of what he was saying, but I knew what he meant, and I felt it, and because the Lord told me that in July 4th. But when this came through, my desk on, this last Tuesday, it kind of dotted the I's and crossed the T's in the sense that, this was a confirmation. And then she said that just recently, in the last 2-3 weeks, or 4 weeks, in the last month, she again had this dream, this vision about she being pregnant again. But she said that now there was an urgency to it, and that she felt like she was about to give birth soon, and that she felt this baby was coming fast now, and there was nothing, there was no way to stop it. And so when I saw that, I knew what that meant. I knew immediately what that meant because of these other things that have happened, the vision I had, what Larry's picked up in the spirit. And so I put all that together, and I share basically, this thing is going to happen now. There's no stopping it. And let me share quickly what I see may happen, and then, of course, I want to hear your comments on Larry's, whatever you guys, as the Spirit leads. But I truly believe that the media, what is going on with the media right now, the Trump bashing and all of these things that they're coming at him from every angle, all over, every news media, everywhere, from Hollywood, from the Vatican, from everywhere, they're coming at him. I do believe that this could backfire, and that Trump could very well win the election. Now, this is not a good thing for what I'm about to share. Many people think this will be a good thing, but this is not going to be a good thing, and this is why I think that, and this is what I feel in the spirit, okay? If that happens, if Trump wins the election, which he could very well win it, There is no way that he is going to occupy the White House. Everything now is being prepared so that in case that happens, he's being set up to be a guy that is unfit to be president of the United States, and therefore, I believe personally, the Lord didn't tell me this, but I believe personally, this is my opinion, not the Lord's, that Obama basically will say, he will come out and say, Trump is not fit to become president of the United States, therefore I am executing an executive order, yada, 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 and I will remain in power until we can solve this thing, until further notice. I will declare martial law, or maybe not martial law, but I will stay in power until this thing is solved and sorted out, and, blah, blah, blah. When that happens, there will be, I believe, a revolution that will take place in America. The people will not. The people will say that's enough. We've had it. And this also was shown to me a few years ago, that a revolution was coming to America, and that I was also told that this revolution would usher in the New World Order. Okay. And so this is what I believe will be triggered by this revolution. The revolution, when it happens, then Obama will declare martial law. This martial law, when it is declared, okay, this is what's going to lead to the New World Order. Those are the way I see it, the steps that the dominoes may fall. And so I say that to let the people know out there that we need to pray. Really, we need wisdom to know how to pray, because if Hillary Clinton wins the election, it's going to be horrible, and if Donald Trump wins the election, it could be worse.
Yes.
And so, no matter how we roll the dice, it's not going to be good. This next year, the end of this year and the next year is not going to be good. And so I just put that out there for you and Larry to share whatever the Lord leads you to do.
Larry, what's your comment?
Oh, well, yeah, I'll comment into that, to what he was talking about, because they're reporting today that there appear to be secret plans, if Hillary wins, for Paul Ryan to become a presidential nominee to run in 2020. And some of the military people are saying that if Hillary wins, you won't have to worry about 2020. You won't ever see another election, ever. And I went back and I reread again Anton Johansson, the Norwegian seer, some of his data that he had posted in his little book, many years ago, but even before World War I. And he said he was shown something, that there was 2 civil wars coming to America, and of course there was one already, but the second civil war, he said, would break up. He said he didn't know what happened, but the United States itself broke up into like 3 or 4 nation states, and different states stuck together, but they broke up as from Washington. And so, it appears the GOP really doesn't want Trump to win either. I mean, he's not wanted to win, period. And everything is aligning against him. And so, there you are. I have to say, Augusto, what you laid out could really be strategic points.
Well, what was interesting also is that I just read an article where they said that something like 40 GOP leaders were going to vote for Hillary. I mean, we've never seen anything like this. It's unprecedented. And it's also unprecedented that Obama would be sticking his nose into this election to the degree that he's actually said that Trump is unfit for office. I mean, do the American people not see that this is something that has never occurred in modern history? That the plugs have all been pulled out to get rid of this guy named Trump? I don't know. It's amazing to me, and I have to agree with Augusto. They may not call it martial law, but that's what it's going to be. And I think you have to go. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Stuart, you asked a question there that's very, very important, and I think Augusto mentioned it or touched on it a few days ago or whatever. Stuart, you asked, don't the American people know? I am thoroughly convinced, guys, that a blindness has descended on almost all of America's peoples, and really, literally, a lot of the peoples of the world. And matter of fact, what's so interesting, Barry Rothman, you had him on your show, Stuart. He does some really interesting matrices, and he just did one, and it seems to go along with what we're talking about. He did a matrix, and it was called B. Obama, H. Clinton, and Trump for mental illness. And it's still under construction, but I looked at it briefly, and in the Torah codes, he found Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump, and the term mental illness crossed close to Trump, but it crossed right up against Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. And, I have to say that Augusto's mentioned it, and Stuart, you've mentioned it a number of times, and I mentioned Augusto, your theory, your working investigation or theory into the gravitational wave and what it might do. I have to say something is there's a paradigm shift in the mentality of the human race that's ongoing right now and getting worse.
Yes. Yeah, I agree
no doubt about it.
So could we say that this is, the Lord says, I will pick their delusions. So here we have Hillary Clinton, a criminal, a murderer, et cetera, probably a rapist as well, being a lesbian like she is. And yet, the American people seem to think that they should elect her. How is that possible? How is it possible that anybody, I don't care if they're liberal, left, right, whatever, how could they think that this woman should be president of the United States with what the FBI director said right there in open hearings? Did she lie? Yep. Did she store classified stuff on her computer at home? Yes. And it went right over the heads of the American people. So you got to be right. There's something gone wrong with the people. What do you think, Augusto?
Well, I think that the journalistic objectivity of this nation is dead. It doesn't exist. There's no objectivity. Yes. They just basically have a program. Okay, that they are told to push, in this case, is attack Donald Trump at any cost. Dig up dirt anywhere you can find it, even if you have to make it up, and disqualify him, discredit him at any cost. And so that's what this is about. It's ridiculous. I mean, the whole world is laughing at this nation. And, what's going on here in this election, everybody knows. The people, I believe, are not stupid. They're waking up, and this is why I believe, like the Lord showed me, there's going to be a revolution. It's unstoppable. It's George Washington's vision showed that, and it manifested it. And so now there's another thing here that I wanted to touch on, which has to do with that, and it's very interesting, and that is, I don't know if you saw it, Larry, and you, Stuart, but Harry Reid came out with a comment either today or yesterday, I know it was very recent, saying and recommended that the CIA not give Donald Trump a briefing on the secret strategic information, in other words, the security briefing on certain strategic secret information, that he should not be given that. And when I heard that, the first thing that came up in my mind and my spirit, it was not about Russia or about any of this thing. The first thing that came up in my spirit was Nibiru. And the alien invasion that is probably going to happen, or is happening, or is going to happen. And this is why I believe that they are so concerned with Trump about this. And I believe this is the number one concern that they have with Donald Trump. Of course, they're concerned that he is going to come after the Clintons, that he's going to come after Obama, that he's going to expose the elite and all. They are concerned about all of the above. But I believe their number one concern in all of this is that if he is given this information about incoming Planet X, that this thing is imminent, that they are concerned and they are terrified that he's going to blow the whistle and he's going to tell everyone what is going on. And this is what I believe is at the crux, really, the mother of secrets that they are extremely concerned about Donald Trump exposing. And, of course, all the other points I mentioned as well. But can you imagine the panic that will ensue if he were given a briefing concerning this topic, which I believe Obama has been given, and I believe that every other president has been given. Probably Hillary has been given. She had access to it when she was, with Obama. All these people know about this and probably have a place, a bunker an underground bunker, and they have been promised all kinds of things. That is why they're quiet. And Obama was recently in one of those late night shows, and he was asked, about aliens. He was asked about Area 51 and about all these things, and then he would, and then he didn't answer. He kind of, shielded that question and went around it, and then they came back again and said, but Bill Clinton, he said that he looked into it and he said that there's nothing to it. And then Obama made a comment that went something like this. I'm paraphrasing. He said, well, that's what we are told to say. So he knows about it. He knows, and he has said many of these dark sentences, answers that he's given to people. We talked about some of that last time we were in the program together. So, these things that are going on right now, they're supposed to give Donald Trump a briefing, a security briefing, the CIA, about government important strategic secret information. It really is going to be very, very interesting in this next few days, maybe weeks, if he is really given that information, or, as Harry Reid said, he basically told the CIA, just give him false information. That's basically what he told them. Just give him falsified information. Don't give him true, real information.
Unprecedented.
So there's some real crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, and of course, as usual, the American people are just twiddling their thumbs and not paying any attention. But I think Larry's right. I think this is I think there's a spirit that's settled down, a spirit of sleep that has now come upon the people of America, and it's just part of the overall judgments that allow these things to start to come to pass. Because if the people were really awake and alert, they couldn't come to pass. There would be a huge uproar. Well, Obama would have already been impeached. He'd be out. But instead, no matter what he does, it gets approved, and nobody says anything. Have you had any... Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Stuart, it's called propaganda. It's called brainwashing. I know. I mean, I should know. I lived in Cuba for a while, and this thing is very, very powerful. The news media has the power, okay, to indoctrinate, to manipulate the thinking of the masses and to guide them, really, to tell them what to think. And this is called propaganda. And he who controls the news media controls the masses. And this is why these people are winning the battle, although they have not been able to control the alternate media in the Internet.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why they're having problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my take is that alternative media is going to be attacked. What do you think, Larry? I think they have to shut this down.
Well, we've already heard from Matt Drudge, a couple of months ago.
That's right.
He was a whistleblower, contacted Matt Drudge and said, this is where it's going. Said, in a few months, you're not going to have the ability to do the Drudge Report anymore. Breitbart won't be there. Most all of, even they're after Fox News to totally destroy it right now. And they are breaking it up. They have a plan. And, Stuart, you hit the nail on the head right there. Alternative media is under attack right at this very moment, and the American people are still twiddling their thumbs. Once it's gone, as Augusto mentioned, you think that, and I've often called the mainstream media, I've many times on my blog called it Obama's media, because that's basically what it is. He and Valerie Jarrett basically run that. And that's what's so interesting is you're exactly right. This is already occurring, especially Matt Drudge, his is one of the top sites in the world that people go to every day for breaking news, and they're after. Now, of course, Andrew Breitbart, he was killed, and numerous others. Matter of fact, interestingly, talk about media and such. They recently somebody tapped one of the DNC people that was about to testify, 2 shots to the head in Washington, shortly ago, and then they found another man that was suing the DNC. He was under Sanders. They found him mysteriously dead in his home this morning with no apparent reason to die. And there's another mysterious death, and it just appears, that assassinations are occurring. I think we've reached the level to where, I can't remember, was it No Eyes or it was someone that people kind of just, turn their head from hearing, but there was somebody that said that these would begin to occur, and I think we're beginning to see that.
Yeah, the prophecy was about assassinations, and that basically, if I recall it correctly, and I'm not sure if it was a Hopi prophecy or who it was, but that the government would begin to assassinate civilians, and then the civilians would figure out, well, if they're going to kill us, we can kill them. And so then the assassinations go in the other way, and that many politicians and leaders are going to be assassinated. And I do remember, I think, I can't think of it. What's his name? I'm getting old. I don't remember those things. But he testified before a group of congressmen. He's one of the leading conservatives, and he warned them. He said, "You keep this up, and the people are going to kill you. They're going to get so angry and so mad that they're going to start killing you people." And, this is, people don't, I guess, understand human nature, but you can push people only so far, and then they retaliate, which, of course, the Illuminati know full well, which is why I think when Augusto said, well, Trump's never going to get into office, even if he's elected, because that would infuriate a lot of people on both sides of the fence, that we have come so far that the will of the people is just totally ignored by this fellow in the White House. So yeah, I can easily see where this could fall into a full-fledged revolution and authority against authority. And I want your take on both you guys on this one. It says in Jeremiah that it's ruler against ruler, or authority against authority, and violence in the land. The thing that starts it, a rumor goes throughout the land in 1 year, and then it goes throughout the land in another year. And at first I always thought, well, maybe that's Y2K, because that was exactly a 2-year rumor. It began in 1998, 1999, and then it quit because we'd gone through the year 2000. So I thought, well, maybe that was the rumor, because it went throughout the land 2 years in a row. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's Jade Helm or something like that. But you have these ruler against ruler and authority against authority. This would kind of dovetail, would it not, into the breakup of 4 or 5 states, or nation states, if you want to call it that, in America? Could it go to that point, like Jericho, the movie series that they had on TV? What do you think?
You know, Stuart, you're talking about that, and I remember well the Jericho movie, and how that, and I know a lot of people don't know this, but, Blackwater that's changed its name now, these groups, these mercenary groups are very important. The government contracts them to do the security and a lot of the black project stuff, other than using our own military. They use the mercenaries, which are these groups. And so, and what's interesting, too, is the nuclear weapons that was found on this base in Louisiana. There was 4 or 5 of them, I want to say, that had been hijacked, and they were located in the B-52 base in Louisiana. And when you begin to look at this rumor against rumor, and I've often thought, Stuart, that one of the rumors that really, the biblical rumor, the 2-year rumor, was basically Y2K. And then, Stuart, I thought the second rumor could very possibly have been the 2012 scenario that never seemed to really occur, other than later some people looked into that, involved in the Mayans and such, and said that calendar basically had nowhere to go from 2012, because that was a paradigm shift of the whole planet that began something new, and they could not see into that. And I think Ed Dames talked about that. But anyway, I've often thought that Y2K was one rumor and that 2012 was the other rumor. And we've been through both of those. And then the ruler against ruler, I have to say, I often thought would basically be something like the Democratic Party versus the GOP. I've totally changed my mind on that, because what I'm seeing now, the ruler against ruler appears to be some rich men and some party officials from both sides fighting each other, which may develop, and in this election it has seemed to develop into different states fighting the central government. And if you look at the book that we talked about, Liberty's Last Stand by Stephen Kuntz, who you can't even find anymore, that book lays out a scenario where the revolution begins under Obama because of his executive orders and moves he begins to make. That does it says Texas is the first, Oklahoma's the second, and then the other states begin to break loose from Washington, and we go to war with ourselves.
And, of course, the enemy would love that, seeing as how, Putin loves us so much, and I'm sure the Chinese love us too. So, what do you think, Augusto? Do you think ruler against...
ruler against ruler. When you go to the original text, there is the Hebrew word mashal, and that means dominion, a governor, someone that reigns, someone that rules, someone that has some power. That is what we are seeing right now. This is exactly what we are seeing in America. Rulers against ruler. I mean, look at what Paul Ryan is. He's coming against Trump. Trump is coming against Ryan and against this guy and against Kane and Obama is coming against. I mean, this is ruler. If there was ever ruler against ruler, we are seeing it this year in the presidential election. But the interesting thing in that verse is that he says, "There shall come a rumor and violence," and I think that is a key word there, because that word violence, again, in the original, it's shamak, which means it's not just violence, it's also injustice, false injustice, oppression, unrighteousness, violence, violent dealings, wrong. I mean, it's like there's a lot of bad things involved in that word violence, which is exactly, again, what is going on here. This vicious slandering, this vicious attacks, this hatred and killing of policemen and policemen of people. I mean, it's almost like a spirit of violence. It's I would dare say, that word there, it's almost like a spirit of violence is spreading through the land and through the world. And ruler against ruler, it can be applied here to America, but it can also be applied to other countries. Like ISIS is spreading. It's happening in Egypt. It's happening in Libya. It's happening in Iraq, in Syria. I mean, all over the Middle East, in Africa. It's happening in Europe. Now, of course, England got out of EU and the Brexit vote. So now there we have a ruler against ruler. So this thing seems to be a worldwide phenomena. And I believe this is the precursor to the chaos. And the chaos is a precursor to the New World Order, order out of chaos.
Chaos. Yes.
Yep. Yes. That has been their plan all along. They have to create chaos first, so that they can bring order in. See?
Well, do you think? Go ahead.
No. That's it. I was just going to say that this is what is. I mean, what else is there? I mean, this is what they're doing is just so clear. It's so easy to see, so clearly, discern.
Well, it is amazing, really, that it is, because they're pulling out all the stops. They don't care now that they're right out in the open with all this lawlessness. It's like they know that no one is going to stop them. It's almost like a mind control event where they know enough. They've studied human behavior, and they know enough to know how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in the aviation business, I flew a group from Great Britain, and they were called the Yes. And, it was amazing what one of their leaders told me. He'd come up and ride in a jump seat occasionally. And he said that when you're doing a concert, it didn't matter whether there were 10,000, 20,000, 25,000 people there. He said it's really one spirit. And he said you capture that spirit within the first minute or so, actually the first probably 20 seconds. And you play to that one spirit. Well, that's sort of a mind control operation. Well, if you can do that with 25,000 people and you mesmerize them to the point where you've actually captured them, then you can begin to understand how Hitler came to power and how all these other leaders, and now Obama or Hillary. I mean, it doesn't seem to matter how much damage this woman has actually done to the country they still love her for it. So isn't that a form of mind control? Really?
Well, it's like it's like we were sharing before, Stuart. It's the power of propaganda, brainwashing. I mean, this thing is very powerful. It has always been powerful. I mean, if regimes like Mao Zedong, Hitler, and Castro and Mussolini, if those guys could do it with technology that back then it was very, very old technology. What can people do now with this new technology, this mind control technology, like you were talking about, where you have these digital TVs and you have these antennas, and smart meters and chemtrailings and the HARP and all this, a powerful technology that they have now available through TV to control the thoughts of people. Now they have this new game out, this, that people are mesmerized with. Everybody is looking at this thing, playing those games. I mean, on the planes, in the streets, and the mall, everywhere, people are glued to this thing. And, these are mind-controlled gadgets and mind-control games and mind-control things. Look at the young people. They're playing these games that they're selling them of war and killing, and they're recruiting them left and right. The young people are just mesmerized by this thing, by these video games, and they're swallowing this thing line, hook, and sinker, and they don't even know it. And it's all mind control. It's all mind control, and this is very powerful. This is what we are seeing. And so many times we think that the people are just, why are they dumb? Why can't they see it? And the answer is very simple, at least to me, and that is, number one, they are not awake because they're not in their connection to the Spirit of God is not there. And the Lord is the only one that can awaken our soulish man, our spirit man. He's the only one that can awaken us and make us sober. Secondly, this propaganda, which people feed on every day through the news, through the media, through their iPads, internet, all these things have the ability to mesmerize and to basically brainwash the people. And so the only ones that are able to see what is happening are those that are awakened by shows like yours, Stuart, and like the ones Larry does, the ones I do, and others out there, a few others, that are awakening the people. They're shaking them from their stupor. And so for maybe a few moments, they kind of shake their heads and say, wait a minute, this makes sense. See, they are shaken from that hypnotic trap that they have been in. And all it takes is a moment of being lucid, just a moment, just a few minutes of a person shaking off that thing and just saying, wait a minute. And see, once that happens, then they can hear the truth. Then the Lord can deal with them. But this is a very strong deception that people are trapped under, and this is leading them right into the arms of the lawless one, right into the arms of this alien invasion, quote unquote, demonic invasion, and UFO invasion. All these things, people are going to embrace them without any resistance. The mark of the beast. Every bit of it, because they are asleep. They are basically hypnotized. They are mesmerized.
Well, yeah, you're right. It's almost like the movie The Matrix, where the people that are in the Matrix don't know it. That was a very interesting movie, actually. And then I don't know if you guys saw Lawnmower Man.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember Lawnmower Man 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Well, that was a very interesting movie because it used the internet. And in Lawnmower Man 2, Job, who's now embedded within the Matrix, is actually running basically the world. And it's done through the internet. So, when you see these movies like Matrix, Lawnmower Man, whatnot, you begin to think, well, is Hollywood telling us all how this is going to work, how this is coming down? And then they can say, well, we told you, we warned you, not our fault that you weren't smart enough to figure it out. It's kind of like the concept that the rich men of the earth claim to be gentlemen, and because they are gentlemen, they warn you. They put it out there, and then they do it. And so nobody has any excuse, I guess. And that kind of brings us back to Trump. He appears to be the only one that's really revealing all of this garbage and corruption, but it's like it's almost falling on deaf ears. So
yeah, he's trying to wake the people, and he's succeeding up to a point. But the machine, the Hillary Clinton machine, the media machine, the elite machine is so powerfully overwhelming that it's just too much for him.
Yeah.
So only the hand of the Lord would get Trump in office.
Absolutely.
Where he actually took office. Larry, what's your comments on what he was talking about? I mean, this is fascinating stuff.
Yeah, I have to agree, Stuart. I just absolutely believe that. Of course, I call him a wild card. That's one of my terms, I guess. But and as you've called Netanyahu for years, Stuart, a wild card, set in office for the Lord to use and manipulate throughout time, towards the end times. And I think Trump's one of those just like that. I think El-Sisi in Egypt's the same type of individual that the Lord's put him in there for a point in time, and there's others. But I have to totally agree. For Trump to literally go in as a ruler of this nation, it would be heaven moving on events to cause that. Because if you look at the natural scenario that's ongoing, and you look at that Clinton machine that has been not only well oiled over the years, but put together for so many years ago, and has moved on. That Clinton machine is well connected to the New World Order crowd. I mean, the ones that run this world, and it's going to take an intervention, and I think a heavenly intervention, if the direction of where we're going is changed at all, even for a delay. And I'm in agreement, Stuart. Even if there is a delay and Trump gets it, that doesn't say it's going to be pretty. People don't need to pull out their picnic equipment, because either way we go, it's not going to be pretty. But I was thinking today, watching the news, if Hillary does get it, though, our descent into hell as a nation will be rather swift.
Yes. I can't believe that the people would put her in, but in one sense, but yet I fear that they will. Probably, I don't know if it'd be a landslide or a rigged election. I know Trump has already come out and said he believes the November election's going to be rigged. So maybe he's already been told, you don't have a chance, so forget it.
Well, the thing is, those WikiLeaks.
Yes.
Yeah, even with all the WikiLeaks, if you look back in history, if you'll remember when Obama was running for the second term, and Hillary was running against him, you remember Kissinger had a meeting with Obama, and then he had one with Hillary, and Hillary dropped out, remember? And the very same scenario began with this election, the 2016 election, because Kissinger had his meeting, and Hillary's running, and remember he had a special meeting with Donald Trump, but Donald Trump hasn't quit. Donald Trump is still fighting, and And he's fighting the New World Order. He's not supposed to be in there, but yet the wild card's kicking.
Yeah, Augusto, you were going to say.
No, I was just going to remind the people that, that WikiLeaks, remember, just came out with very, very important information about the DNC and what they were planning, and that was a bombshell right around the Democratic National Convention. Of course, they didn't say much about that. They just made it go away real fast. I don't know. I mean, that was a magician's act right there. They just made it go away fast. It fizzled out into nothingness, and the news media really covered that one up fast. But now they're coming up with another report in this next few days, which apparently is supposed to be on this rigged election, this rigged general election coming up, and that's going to be another bombshell. And I believe that is what they're talking about. Donald Trump has been told this is in fact what is going to happen, what they're planning, and so he's gone out and said it, that they're going to rig the election, and but that is nothing new. We know. That is how they do it.
Yeah, it's a one-party system with two heads. So people should have already figured that one out many, many years ago. But I'm going to change subjects here a little bit. Have either of you had a vision of an impact event from outer space, so to speak?
Well, Augusto may have. He saw something in the ocean that caused the ocean to churn off the East Coast, and it really developed all the way down, I guess, to the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean. And the reason I say that, Augusto, is while reading Anton Johansson's old book again, little old book, he talked about an impact event, some kind of event that struck off of Iceland or south of Iceland and off in the Atlantic anyway, and caused a massive catastrophe. And I began to think, well, maybe what you saw was, I know you didn't see anything impact, but you saw the ocean churning, and so,
right.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Larry. I didn't know what hit the ocean, but I did see the oceans swirling violently, and I believe I titled that vision of the night. I can't remember exact words. I would have to look it up, but it hit off the coast of Virginia, the border of Virginia, Maryland, Virginia Beach, and Maryland. I knew that's where I was standing. I was standing right there on the coast. I was looking at the people. I was in the beach, okay? And I was standing there with a lot of people, but I noticed everybody, all the people, everyone on the beach was looking out into the sea, because we heard a loud booming sound. I mean, it was very loud, like an earthquake or a bomb or something that happened. And everybody looked. It was way out there in the sea, and everybody was looking out there, but nobody could see anything. So as I was looking out to the same place where everybody was looking, I started looking, but I couldn't see anything. But then it seemed like an invisible hand picked me up and just, brought me up, okay, above the waters, and just I started traveling on the air way out there into the sea, okay, and then he took me right over the event. Okay, at right where the event had taken place, okay, and then when I was right over it, what I saw was a huge hole in the ocean, a huge hole, like something had hit there, and the waters were churning violently, and then waves were starting to pick up, okay. And I saw the waters like there was like a lot of foam in the water, and the water and big waves started forming. A big, huge wave started forming, and then as that happened, I was taken back to the coast, way inland, where and I was placed in on what seemed like a hill. And when I was standing there, I saw this huge wave coming over the land. It was huge, and it destroyed everything in its path. And so that was the event that I saw. Okay, but then in another experience that I had, I saw the east coast of the U.S. Okay, all the way from Maine to down to the Keys and Miami, all the eastern seaboard of the country. I would say, if I had to calculate, I would say anywhere between 25 to 50 miles inland. The water went about 50 miles inland, and some places it was less. But I was like Florida, half of Florida, half the eastern side of Florida that was covered in water. And the same with Georgia. In some parts of Georgia, it went even further in, and same with South and North Carolina, Virginia, same, very heavily flooded, all the way up to Maine. And I know that is probably what caused it, or at least one of the events that caused it. And there probably is going to be another event down in the Caribbean. And because I saw Miami also, a tsunami there. I did not see the what caused that tsunami, but I did see the tsunami. I was right there where in my mom's house, my mom and dad's home. They lived about a mile from the coast. And I saw this thing coming, and it was huge. It was like a skyscraper. So I know this thing is going to happen, but the only event that I saw, I didn't see a hit, but I saw it. I saw the sea after it had hit, and it looked like an impact.
Well, the reason I bring it up is they just released the FARSIGHT people, they're remote viewers. They just released a video on YouTube, and they had 3 remote viewers that did not know each other, different parts of the country, but they came up with something that is to impact, they claimed, in August of this year. Now, we all know that remote viewing dating generally doesn't work. So, but this is what they saw, and I wanted some comments. It's an urban city that's hit with what appears to be either a particle beam weapon. And the reason I bring this one up, because I want to read what they claimed they saw, particularly Augusto, because of what you saw on that Death Star. Okay, it comes from outside of the Earth's atmosphere. It looks like a large lightning flash or a streak of light. There's a loud explosion of booming thunder, and then they claim that the heat was horrific. They kept saying hot, hot, fused steel smell, sizzling hot, very hot, melting steel hot, plasma hot, molten metal. And then what comes out of it is a huge shock wave, a pressure wave, shakes the ground. It digs a big hole in the dirt, and they have a burnt smell even of the earth itself. And there's also accompanied with it, they claimed, an ozone smell. It comes totally unexpected. It's totally out of the blue, and it has a huge shock wave and an explosion. And do you recall what happened over there in China, where those 2 big plants blew up, and they said they thought maybe this was a particle beam weapon of some sort? Well, anyway, massive airwaves, and buildings are destroyed, blown apart, broken glass everywhere, rubble, a lot of dead people, massive people running and screaming. They're all frantic, multiple deaths. The city that they described has a dome structure on it, like a Capitol building, which might make it either like Washington or state capitol. A big mushroom cloud is seen after the event. One of them said that the president comes on TV and tries to reassure the people. What would you make of that, knowing what you already know? Now, they claim this is going to occur in August, for whatever that's worth. What does that sound like to you?
Are you asking me, Stuart or Larry?
Yeah, both. Actually, both of you. Yeah.
Well, I would say that they're definitely getting something ready to target this object that is coming. Maybe they want to fragment it. They want to divide it, but they do have weapons to do that if they want to, if they need to. But I don't think that is probably going to work. It may do more harm than good, and eventually what may happen is, and they may get to use that weapon, by the way. They may get to use that weapon. But what probably will happen is, instead of a huge impact, which would be a total destruction of at least nations, what we may see is that they may be able to fragment it. Maybe that's one side of this story. They may be able to fragment, and then what we have is several smaller fragments falling on the ocean, and either that or this object that is coming in, Nibiru, Planet X. We know that it has a tail it's dragging a lot of debris. Mm-hmm. And so I don't believe that object is going to strike the Earth. I'm talking Planet X or Blue Kachina or even the Red Kachina. But I do believe that it is dragging enough asteroids, meteors, that one of those or several may hit the Earth. And if what we see in the book of Revelation, in fact, happens, that is exactly what will take place. There's going to be impacts, several impacts on the ocean of objects, of meteors, asteroids, and this is what I believe I saw there in the ocean, on the Atlantic Ocean. East of Virginia. Of course, I believe also, Stuart and Larry, that this also it's going to happen on the West Coast. But I guess because I live on the East Coast and I am a watchman over this area, the Lord has only shown me this area. He hasn't shown me that other area over there. But I have been mostly shown the eastern half of the United States and what is going to happen to it. I have not been shown with specificity much of what's going to happen on the West Coast per se, but I have seen what's going to happen on the East Coast. But I do know there's going to be also impact events on the West Coast, on the Pacific as well.
Well, what I was wondering about, you have that comment in the book of Revelation, he maketh fire to come down from heaven to fool those who dwell upon the earth, paraphrasing it. Would this thing that the remote viewers have seen, and I don't buy into remote viewing any more than Larry does, but it was kind of interesting because evidently it just strikes a singular city, a capital city within one of the states, or maybe even Washington. Larry, you had a vision, if I remember right, did you not, of some sort of a particle weapon that was up by the moon? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, I sent you a copy of that years ago.
Yes.
It was, I was out in the taken out into space, and I was shown later. I didn't know what it was at first. You remember I told you that it was constructed of something that did not reflect light. It was dark, and it had some type of barrel on it, and it was pointing away from Earth. And I shared. I think I drew a little bit of it, and the only thing that I ever saw in researching what that might be was I saw a particle beam weapon in some construct, on the internet, and it appeared to be similar. But I'll tell you what's interesting, and Augusto may remember this. Augusto interviewed, I want to say, Bob Fletcher. I'm not sure if it was Bob Fletcher or not, but I think it was. And of course, Augusto had the experience where we're talking about the Death Star, which is really interesting. But also, Bob Fletcher claimed knowledge in that interview Augusto had with him. Bob Fletcher claimed personal knowledge of some type of weapon that had been constructed out in space to take out asteroids and even another planet, maybe. And Bob Fletcher if it was Bob Fletcher, and I think that was his name, he claimed he was really concerned because
it was Bob Fletcher, Larry.
Oh, okay, good. At least my memory's still intact, pretty much. Anyway, Bob Fletcher was very concerned about what effect that weapon might have if it was even tested or used. And you can tell more about it, Augusto. You interviewed him.
Well, basically, he confirmed that. He which was kind of interesting because I had never heard him say anything about that, and he said that he had just confirmed that in fact there was a weapon that the government had disclosed that they have, and that is a particle beam weapon in space to kill this incoming planets, asteroids, objects, and to destroy it. And this is, again, this has something to do with CERN. And when the Lord began to deal with me about this, he was very specific. He was very specific in what he showed me when he took me to a meeting that was actually taking place. I don't know where it was, but I knew it was the Crown Royal Hotel. That much I know. And I was taken to that meeting, and I was very, very, what is the word? I felt very out of place there, but I was literally there. I don't know how that happened. I don't know if it was a vision or if I was really there. I don't know. It was very strange. This has only happened to me a handful of times, not many times, maybe 2-3 times. And when I was there, these scientists were, doing a dissertation on this, on this weapon. I didn't know it was a weapon at first. They were showing a report to the people about this object, this weapon, this whatever it was that they were talking about, the Death Star, and I kept hearing the Death Star, and they had this report that they were passing out, and the meeting was made up of very, very wealthy, influential people from many countries, from all over the world. And these were very, very important people. You could tell by looking at them, very dignified, very wealthy, powerful-looking people. And they seemed to be all very interested in in the contents of this report that the leading scientist was sharing. Now, I got my hands on the report and I looked at it. I could not understand much of what was written, and I had to go over it very, very fast. I could not make sense of the highly technical language that was used. However, I remember one thing clearly from this experience, and that is that there was a part of this report, and I saw this clearly. At the top of the page, I read the following words written: Death Star, and then I read under it, the port. Okay? Just like that, the port. Now, when I saw that, okay, I thought he had to do with the destroyer, with Planet X, Nibiru. I really felt that it had to do with it, and that was probably what that was about. The Death Star. That the Death Star they were talking about was the destroyer. But I was wrong. It was about the destroyer. It was about Planet X and Nibiru, but the Death Star was not it. The Death Star, when they said the Death Star, they were not referring to Planet X. But that's what I thought in the when I had this dream, this vision, okay? And so anyway, I was awakened from this, and I wrestled with this thing for a long time. I didn't know what it meant. But slowly but surely, as I prayed and as I began to put this out there, I posted it. I began to receive information from different people, okay? And I began to connect the dots. I began to put these pieces together like a puzzle. Actually, it was like a puzzle. The Lord, it is the Scripture says it is the honor, it is the glory of God to conceal the matter, but it is the glory of kings to search the matter out. And so the Lord concealed this thing kind of led me to search it out. And I had to really search it out because I did not understand what this whole thing meant. But as I began to come upon the pieces, okay, I began to stumble upon CERN, okay? CERN has, of course, the 666 logo, okay? He has the Shiva statue outside their headquarters in Geneva. And I knew in this experience that the place where I was the Crown Plaza, and I looked it up, Stuart and Larry, and there is a Crown Plaza in Geneva, Switzerland. That is where CERN is. And I believe that is the place that I was taken for that meeting. I know it, that I know, that I know. That is where I was. I was taken to Geneva, Switzerland, at the Crown Plaza Hotel right there for a CERN meeting with all these people. Now, this is the interesting part, okay? At first I thought this Death Star was the name assigned to Planet X by these people. However, I began to receive a revelation that it was not that at all. That this name, the Death Star, that they were mentioning, had to do with a weapon. That was what the report was about. It was a weapon that was being developed in order to shoot and try to destroy this incoming planetary object or some other perceived space threat, okay? Now, I did not understand what that term meant, the port. And I thought after I was awakened that it meant the report, and I said maybe it's the report, and I just did not remember the whole word, and I thought it was, that's why I only saw the port, but it's the report. And I tried to convince myself that that's what it was. But when I began to really receive information and revelation about this, here's what I found out. That there is actually something called the port that these people have. CERN has an organization, and this just blew me away. It just blew me away. CERN, I discovered CERN has an organization that is titled the Port.
Oh, really?
which stands for Personnel Operation Research Team. This group of people, okay, this organization, the Port, consists of a group of people that they put out a problem, okay, and then they bring in people. They bring the cream of the crop, okay, the best minds, the best scientists, the best astrophysicists, and so forth, the best mathematicians, to solve that problem. To solve, so that these people, when they come together, they give them, they present the problem to them, and so that they can resolve the issue, and then they can apply to be a part of that team, the port. Okay, then these people, when I got this information, I realized that I had been in I was taken by the Lord to a meeting with CERN people, the elite, and the port. In other words, they have brought together a team of people with a problem with the with this weapon, which is called the Death Star, and they had brought in the port to see how they to settle it, to fix it, to if you will, to complete it. And I, of course, I posted this. It's on my website there, and they had a meeting in October 31st to November 4th, 2014. They had another meeting in 2015, and they had another one in February 2010 and April 2010, and then they had another one October 2 to October 4 in 2015. They even have a Facebook page, Stuart and Larry. In this Facebook page, which I have the link there posted on our website, it's got the CERN logo, that 666. Okay, the three interlaced sixes.
Yes. Yep.
So anyway, to make a long story short, if you look at the images of the CERN, globe in Switzerland, and you look at an image of the Death Star from Star Wars, they look identical. And I didn't know that. I by the way, for the people listening to me, I never watched those movies. I never watched those Star Wars movies. I never saw them. So I had no clue, no idea. That's in case somebody out there is thinking, well, he's probably watched the movie and that's where that came from. No, I had not even watched the movies. My son was the one that told me when I shared with him. I said, Dad, that was in the movie Star Wars. Didn't you watch the movie? I said, no. So he said, duh, everybody knows that, Dad. I said, well, I didn't know that. And so, and then the other image, and I have all three images, by the way, posted there on our website if anybody wants to go look at it, under Dreams and Visions. The third image I have is the image they have outside the Vatican. And they have this strange-looking sphere that looks a lot like that CERN globe. And so it's just very fascinating, very strange, very weird how all this thing fits together. But anyway, to go back to the original question, Stuart, I believe they have this weapon. I believe this weapon is ready. It is somehow connected with CERN. This is what all the CERN tests are all about. I believe CERN is what is going to power up this weapon. And I believe, and again, I'm no physicist, I'm no astrophysicist. You would need to bring in a guy like Stan Day, or maybe somebody even that knows even the intricacies of this thing even better, to be able to explain how this could be. But I can read, okay? I can read. I'm no scientist, but I can read. And from what I have read, the scientists have said that CERN has the ability to create enough power, okay, to implode. In other words, to cause an explosion inside a planet and totally blow it up to a smithereens.
Which would
and
be
so
kind of
I
like
believe this is what this is all about. The Death Star working in conjunction with CERN. Okay, the Death Star being they have some kind of, this is some kind of weapon out there in the heavenlies. Okay? I haven't seen it, but it may look something like the Death Star in the Star Wars. Anyways, in connection with CERN, I believe that is what is going to power this thing to be able to just destroy this incoming object, or at least they think that they can do it.
Well, there's a movie that Steven Seagal made. I'm not sure if he directed it, but it's called Under Siege 2. And it's about a guy who's, brilliant, who defects from the government and takes over this kind of a Death Star type object. It's a satellite. And he can blow up whatever he wants with it. So it's obviously particle beam or laser light of some type. But that kind of, with these remote viewers, and the statement in Revelation that he maketh fire to come down out of heaven implies that there's some sort of a weapon out there that they use to either blow up 1, 2, 3, or 4 cities and take over, basically. Who can make war with the beast?
Well, Stuart, do you remember? Yeah, Stuart, do you remember Gary Vay? You remember he wrote that warning book called "Evil Fire Made to Burn," and
yes,
he constructed that book warning about HAARP and what it was linked to. Now, Daniel Holdings linked pretty much HAARP with CERN, working in tandem for some odd situation, but Gary Vay warned that this weapon had misfired or something once and cooked a lot of Eskimos and people in Alaska, and they kept all of that secret and covered up. And
yes,
Gary Vay's warning of that book was literally off of ancient petroglyphs all around the world that talked about fire coming from the heavens, evil fire made to burn. And so, that's interesting. It ties in with what you guys are talking about. It could pretend to be a space weapon, basically. I don't know.
Well, it certainly sounds like it with everything that they said that they saw. And what was amazing to me was that these 3 guys, they were actually 2 guys and 1 lady, who remote viewed, and this is what they saw. And each one added details to the other, and they were totally separate. They did not know that the others were even working on it. And when you put it together, it sounds like some sort of a plasma weapon or particle beam weapon. So when you couple this vision that these remote viewers saw with the book of Revelation, and you couple that with Augusto's vision of we are out of time, and this thing comes out of the blue. It's sudden, and everything was quiet and peaceful, they all said. And then without any warning whatsoever, boom, there it is, and virtually an entire city is destroyed. But it sounds, the way they described it, a streak of light coming from outer space. It had a streaking motion to it. Well, if I recall right, didn't some people say they saw that with that China explosions some time ago when they took out those, I don't know what they were, factories or whatever they were?
I heard that those were nuclear bunkers of some kind in those mountains where that hit, and they said it even turned those mountains to foam, whatever hit it. And isn't it interesting, Stuart, if you'll remember in the movie you're talking about with Steven Seagal, the weapon, the first use of that weapon was to strike a location in China.
Yes, it was. You're right. So here's the other question. Hollywood, they got to be being fed all this information. How is it that they know so much? You know what I mean? It's kind of like Deep Impact. When you look at what they had on Deep Impact, if I recall the boxes of food and everything, that was all down there in the Caribbean. Like Augusto just said, there was going to be an event down there. The zip code was all down there for, what was the nation involved in that? I can't remember.
Puerto Rico, wasn't it?
Puerto Rico. Yes, it was Puerto Rico. And wasn't there a prophet down there in Puerto Rico who said that there was going to be an event, that he had been shown that there was going to be an event?
I think Augusto talked to him. Augusto, you talked to that guy, didn't you, that predicted that strike?
Yeah, we corresponded on the mail. He sent me some information and some of the documents. And according to him, he has talked to to some of FEMA's scientists and personnel, and they confided in him basically that yes, that they're concerned that there's going to be an impact there, and this is one of the reasons why they had been stashing a lot of coffins in Puerto Rico. There was a lot of rumors and news about this a couple of years ago and a year ago even. And they're bringing a lot of food up to the mountains and stashing them there. And, just like they're doing here in the U.S., these things have been going on, people, for a long while. FEMA has been stashing medical supplies, food in the central part of the U.S., okay, and in some other states. And I think there were 3 states that they had concentrated on. I can't remember. My mind does not serve me well, like Stuart says, probably old age. But I think one of the states was Missouri, and the other one, I think it was the western part of Tennessee, and I can't remember the other one. And they were stashing a lot of medical supplies, food, and a lot of things there, and coffins and things, and because they're expecting these events on the West Coast, and I think they were stashing also a lot of this for the impact on the West Coast. So these things have been going on now for a while. All this, what happened last year, those exercises that the Jade Helm exercises,
yes,
that people forget about these things, When these things are happening, there's a lot of furor. People. There's a lot of going back and forth and radio shows, but now nobody talks about it. People forget about these things, and the fact is that the government has been preparing for this event for a few years now, and it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. But it is going to happen. They know it. They have inside information. And, this object is visible now to anybody that cares to look up and has a decent camera with filters, or not even a camera, just your cell phone. If you have a good cell phone and it has a filter in it, you can take some great photos, and you're probably going to see this object right next to the sun. And it's visible now all over. You don't even need infrared lenses. All you need is a good filter because it's so bright, and the sun is so bright, and it's right there next to the sun, and you can't see it. But it's there. It's very visible now, and this cannot be debunked anymore. There's no way to debunk this. It's coming in from all over: South America, North America, Australia, Canada, China, you name it. And so these people eventually are not going to be able to conceal this any further. And this is why they are so concerned about Trump, that he gets intel about this, and he will blow it. He will blow the whistle, and they are adamant. They will not allow. They rather have martial law now than allow him to come in contact with that information and just blow it off. Just blow the whistle and create chaos worldwide. And so everybody knows about it. The Russians know about it. The Chinese know about it. That's why everyone is building those underground cities of underground bunkers. They're getting ready. They're stacking them up with food, but it's not going to help them. it's really not going to help them at all. Like Revelation says, Revelation 6.
It really is an ELE event that's coming. When you couple the inbound destroyer, which, by the way, it's kind of interesting about this Death Star and how they're building it. In the book of the Colburn, it says that the valiant ones, that's the way it words, attempt to destroy the destroyer. And that was written hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But it says the valiant ones will attempt to destroy this inbound object that the Colburn calls the destroyer. And so when you mention this Death Star, that could be used to control mankind too, as well. So, it's very interesting. And then you've got this gravity wave coming. And according to some insiders, they've already seen it. And I don't, how do you prove it or how do you not prove it? But this Dr. LaViolette has done a tremendous amount of research. They don't ever quote him. He's kind of like Stan Deo. They borrow what these guys have done, but they never use their name. And LaViolette's one of those guys. He's kind of a rogue. And he's one of the first to say that there is an explosion in the galactic core. This explosion is so great that it sends out cosmic waves of all kinds of energy waves that are very, very destructive to anywhere they hit. And these radiate outward from the core. And there's also a gravity wave, which Larry now has spotted several articles concerning these gravity waves. Scientists are now admitting, there are such things. So when this thing comes out, it ripples the time-space fabric. And what was fascinating to me, and this goes back into kind of the rapture of the church, or a possible rapture of the bride of Christ, is the fact that there's a mystic over, I can't remember where he is, Belgium, something like that, I can't remember. But what he claims was there was coming a cosmic fire wave. And what it would do is certain people would vanish. And that's kind of like the Mayan concept of a portal opening up and people just vanishing. In other words, it's a dimensional shift. This shock wave, this gravitational and cosmic energy shock wave that comes through, Paul LaViolette claims it will look like the eye of Jove that you find on your dollar bill on top, that eye, that singular eye. And that's what it'll look like when it finally hits Earth. It just comes out of nowhere, it's upon you, and then the dimensional shift occurs. In other words, it's warped time and space to such a degree that certain people are going to be removed. And that sounds to me an awful lot like the bride of Christ, because it says it happens in the twinkling of an eye. Any comments?
Well, I've got something on that I want to share, Stuart, if you got just a few minutes to listen to me.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't have a title of this, but people can lean back and with their mind troubled with all we've been talking about, they can now listen to me tell a fairy tale. But it's not really a fairy tale. And I like you guys' opinion when I finish here. I'm going to connect a few dots real quick. If by chance you may want to look at 2 Kings chapter 2, and of course I kind of liken Elijah. That's a name that's special to me, and I met him one time actually. But anyway, everybody can now say, okay, there he goes. But in chapter 2, verse 1, it says, when the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven by a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were going from Gilgal. And it goes on down, and it talks about, how that 50 men of the sons of the prophets also went to stood by and watch and all of this kind of stuff, and Elijah had his mantle. And then it talks about, let's see here, said that, I'm trying to find my verse, I lost it here. Anyway, Elijah was taken by this, the fiery chariot, so to speak. And anyway, what I'm going to get at, though, is real quick here, verse 23. And it's talking about Elisha, because Elijah has already been taken up. Now, I know a lot of times people, they say, well, the Old Testament shadows of something that might occur in the New Testament. And I've always wondered, how would the Lord cover up some missing people? How would he do that? How would he block what's being said about an event that's shocking, but then people quickly forget it? And I found this obscure terminology in 2 Kings, and I want to read this to you, beginning with verse 23, and it's talking about Elisha now. Remember, Elijah's gone. Elijah's just left. And it says, talking about Elisha, he went up from Jericho to Bethel on the way. Now I've heard people read this in little Bible stories, but it's obscure, and nobody takes it serious. But when you consider that the one that wrote these words is not a human, in other words, it's not a man, you got to read it a little closer between the lines. So anyway, it says, on the way, young, maturing, and accountable boys came out of the city and mocked Elisha, and said to him, now here's what they said. So there were witnesses. They had information about something that just occurred. In other words, the removal of Elisha from planet Earth. They mocked him, saying, go up in a whirlwind, you bald head. Go up, you bald head. So you've got these mature young people came out and began to mock Elisha, and they were mocking with wordage that included the information that they had that Elisha had been taken, and they're telling old Baldy, in other words, Elisha, you go up too. Go on up in a whirlwind, just like Elisha, your so-called spiritual father did, And verse 24, and he turned around and looked at them and called a curse down on them in the name of the Lord. Now, this is important, guys. Now, I know people don't think it is, but listen. And 2 she-bears came out of the wood and ripped up 42 of the boys. Now, why would someone that's not a man write that 42 of those that were mocking, that were witnesses, that had that witness information about an event just occurred, which was Elijah's removal from the planet, why would 42? So anyway, I looked in the number 42, and I always use Ed Below's 1974 Scripture Numerics. 42 is the number that is associated with Israel's oppression and the Lord's advent to the earth, both his first and second coming. And so if that's true, that number 42 is very important, and it was used in this scripture here. And you talk about the bears, I kind of connected that too. I thought, back then, I don't know who the bears represented, but I do know that there's a beast comes up in Revelation that has, it's like a panther, but it's got the feet of a bear. And I thought about Russia.
Yes, Russia.
So I thought, well, if by chance, though, and I'll just say this and shut up, this is obscure, and I thought maybe this is a clue. If by chance at a future time, which we're in, that the Lord would choose to pull a second Elisha event, in other words, remove somebody else from this planet supernaturally by gravitational wave, whatever, opening of portals or whatever he chooses to do, and some people become missing, the good cover-up would be an event by Russia, in other words, maybe an invasion of Israel, maybe an attack on the United States, but something involving the bear to actually cause people, it distracts the people, because when you read this about these young men being attacked by the bears, you don't see anywhere in there that they're mocked anymore, do you? You don't even see them talking about Elisha leaving. It's over. the witnesses don't talk about it anymore. So I thought, well, maybe that's a clue that down the road, that if there is an event that somebody gets out of here supernaturally, and people talk about it for a moment, where those missing people, they might only think on that just a second till maybe the bear in our end times gets their attention on the bear. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I thought maybe this obscure little story has more involved in it than we know. Maybe it's actually a clue to a really big event in our time.
Well, I would say you're absolutely right. That's astounding, and I'll tell you why. You remember David Wilkinson's vision? What did he say? He said when the Soviets hit the United States with nuclear weapons, we go out at the same time.
I don't remember that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's the bear. In fact, I just put a blog up about that, World War III, and how they're missing the invasion of Israel, and how that Gog from the land of Magog and all his allies have come down upon the mountains of Israel. And then while they're there, while they're in the middle of that invasion, Gog has an evil thought. Let me go up to the land of unwalled villages, to them that are at rest. Well, and gathered out of all the nations. There's two nations that have been gathered out of all the nations of the world, and only two. Israel, the gathering back, the regathering after the diaspora, and the United States, which was forged from people all over the world.
That's
those
right.
two nations. And I think that's, when you said that, that ties directly back to the taking of America, which you will find in Ezekiel 38:39. And I think I've mentioned it before. Folks out there, when you see this multiple alliance come against the mountains of Israel, literal Israel over there, we don't have hardly any time. We might have a day, we might have 2 days. We don't have hardly any time, and then we're going to get hit. And any Russian general would immediately say, as Netanyahu, if he was going to attack Iran, has to neutralize Syria. You don't have any options. They've got to neutralize the other enemies in order to take Iran out. Well, the Soviets would have to do the same thing, and I call them the Soviets because they themselves said that glasnost and perestroika were, in fact, just window dressing. And if you watch the military exercises over there, all the former Soviet people, for the most part, take part in those military exercises. So it's incredible that you read that, what you just did in Kings, and the bear, and the 42, and the second advent, and then you got David Wilkinson's vision. We went out as we were attacked nuclear-wise. That was the cover. That was the cover that the Lord used, he said. I find that incredible. How about you, Augusto?
Well, I do think that Elijah being taken in a chariot of fire up, that is a type of a rapture. That is one of the few times in the Bible that we hear or read about a chariot of fire, which I have always wondered about it. I've always thought about that particular scripture. It's very mysterious, very, nebulous, chariot of fire. What was that? What was that chariot of fire? And, it's one of those things that, that you ponder on and you think about and, and then you pray some more about it, and then you ponder some more, and it's just one of those things that is really not explained very, very clearly in the Bible. And so when I read that, and I think about it and I meditate on it, and then I was in Honduras some time back. I think it was maybe about 2 years ago, and this young girl, I asked in the school, for anyone. I felt in the spirit that there was a young person there. By the way, this is a public school that they let me go in there, not a Christian, a public school. And I was preaching to them, and then I asked, is there anyone here that has had a dream or a vision from God? And I had never done that. And I said, raise your hands. And nobody would raise their hands. And then I encouraged them. I said, this is important. I was really impressed by the Holy Spirit of God that there is a young person here that had a vision or a dream that you need to share. Please raise your hand. And so finally this girl, way in the back, raised her hand. And when she did, I asked her to come forth. And so when she did, I asked her to share. Well, make a long story short, she started sharing about her experience with, that she had this vision that she had. And in this vision that she had, she saw the end. She saw the destruction. She saw, we were in San Pedro Sula, which is the capital, the northern capital of Honduras. A very, very, poor people. But the city is quite beautiful. It's one of the, really, really nicest parts of northern Honduras. And so at any rate, very nice buildings, really tall buildings there. And she saw the whole thing just, being destroyed, earthquakes and everywhere, and the buildings were collapsing. And she saw these huge openings on the earth. The earth began opening up and swallowing people left and right. And then she started crying. She saw people falling and fire coming from under the earth. And she started crying and panicking, and then she looked to the right, and there was Jesus. And then she looked at him and said, she screamed and she yelled at him, Jesus, please save me. I am afraid, save me. And then she came to the arms of Jesus. Jesus embraced her, and she says, please save me. And then as she continued to look, she said that she saw the face of Jesus, and she said, save these people. Can't you please save them? And she looked at the face of Jesus, and she said she saw 2 tears rolling down his cheeks. And as he said to her, I cannot help them. They have made their choice. And as she continued to watch, she said that she saw these chariots. She called them chariots of fire, by the way. Chariots of fire in Spanish is carrozas de fuego. She said that she saw them beginning to descend from heaven, and they began to light down on the earth, barely touching the earth. And she said that she saw, and these are her words. She said she saw the elect as they began to get into those chariots of fire. And as they began to get into the chariots of fire, she said that as they got into the chariots of fire, they were changed.
Wow.
They were changed. And as they were changed, she said that they became like angels. And as she was watching, she said that she saw these chariots begin to, take off again. She said she saw a lot of people. They were trying to get into the chariots of fire, but they could not. They couldn't get to it. They would fall through the cracks on the earth. And so as she kept watching, she saw them ascending and going higher and higher until they disappeared. And then she woke up. And so when Larry was sharing about the chariot of fire and, how Elijah was taken in this chariot of fire, I can't help but think about that. Think about this chariot of fire that Elijah was taken up, and then I heard this girl talk about it, and I can't help but think that somehow there's going to be an event that is going to, present itself, something like that. And I don't know. I know this goes against theology. I know this goes against biblical theology and the way people think the rapture is supposed to take place. And, of course, we are going to be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. Well, the way this girl saw it was people were changed, but they were changed as they entered into the chariots. They were changed instantly from a human being to an angelic form. And so, I'm just sharing. This girl was not a believer. She was born again. Now she's attending church, but when she had the experience, she wasn't. So some people may debate that that was not from God and so forth. But at any rate, I just thought it was interesting. Larry was talking about it, Elijah and the chariot, and and then of course there is. Other parts in the Bible, Ezekiel, a wheel within a wheel, he saw that. And, there's many things that we just don't understand. And people need to be a little, open to these things. And, not have this, their minds so fixated that it's got to be this way, and the pre-tribulation rapture has got to happen before any problem happens, and this is the way it's going to be, and this is the way it's going to happen, and left behind where the people's clothes are dropped to the floor and they vanish, we have to be a little more open-minded than that, because like we all have said, I have said it, Larry has said it, you probably have said it too, Stuart, that God is not a man. He is not a man. He does not think like a man, doesn't act like one, and certainly doesn't behave like one. And he doesn't exist like a man. He exists in a dimensionless place. There's no dimension there. There's no time. So we have to be open, people. And of course, I believe in aliens. I do believe that there's going to be a fallen angelic false rapture. I do believe that there's going to be UFOs. So we have to use discernment. But I do believe that when this happens, whenever that is, and however that happens, we are going to know. And those that have the Spirit of God are going to know. And this is why we have to be ready. So we can discern what is from Him and what is not from Him. And if we are ready, and if we have the Spirit of God within us, and we are close to Him, we will not be deceived. We will know if it is the Lord or if it's not the Lord. We will discern it. We will discern its evil influence. We will discern its demonic operation. We will be able to discern if it's from the Lord or not from the Lord. And this is why we need to be discerning. This is why we have to have our senses sharp in the discerning of good and evil, because this is going to come to that, I believe, with all of my heart. That is what it's going to come down to, and the people have to be ready. They have to have their lamps full of oil and be able to discern if something is from the devil. But if something is from the Lord, and it does not happen the way they thought it was supposed to happen, that is also dangerous, that they may reject it.
Yeah. When you mentioned the false rapture, what's your take on how that operates? Because I had heard from the New Age that they were going to rapture the various religious leaders and political leaders. They'd be gone, maybe 2-3 weeks. And when they re-arrived, they would have miraculous powers. And, of course, nothing, if anything like that actually happened, you would immediately then have a global religion. If all the religious leaders of all the faiths were removed, and the political leaders, that would, I would think, bring about a one-world government, a one-world economic system, and a one-world religion. What was your take on this false rapture?
Well, I think it's going to be probably they're going to try to imitate what the rapture might look like. I do believe that there have been people that have seen this happen. Yes. They have seen an apparition of Jesus coming in the clouds of heaven, for example, with a lot of angels, okay? And they saw these angels beginning to, change into the form of pigs, of demonic pigs. And then the apparition of Jesus began to change as well. I have seen many things like that. I have seen UFOs appear also in some visions and dreams at the time of this cataclysmic event. When the second sun appears, I have seen also a lot of UFOs appearing. It is going to be a very, very, very dangerous time, a very perilous time. And like I said, there's going to be divine moments in it, and there's going to be demonic moments in it. And this is why this is not a clean-cut, open and shut type of scenario that people would like it to be. There's going to be a warfare going on. There's going to be demonic stuff going on, and there's going to be angelic stuff going on. And we are going to be involved in many of these things. And we have to have our wits about us. One of the things that the Spirit of God keeps telling me is have your wits about you. Be sober. Be observant. Be discerning. Be able to discern what is what, because this thing is not going to be as easy to tell as people think.
Yes, it would have.
That is why the Bible calls it a great delusion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they may happen, Stuart and Larry, one right before the other. I don't know how this is going to be, but you know how the devil acts. It's going to be something that may happen, I believe, right before. I don't know how much before, but this is going to be a very dangerous moment where the people are going to misjudge and they're going to be deceived.
Yeah. Larry, got any comments before we close her down? We got about a minute and a half.
Oh, I'll tell you what, that's sobering stuff. I mean, really sobering stuff, and I hope that people heed some of the warnings, and we need to watch very closely as events transpire, because one of the things, guys, that strikes me is a lot of these events could be fulfilled quickly. I mean, I know we think we got years for all this to play out, but it may not take years. Some of this stuff may actually begin to transpire one day after the other. We don't know.
Yeah. Augusto, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, they can get a hold of me at theappearance.com, just like that. 3 W's, theappearance.com.
Larry, how do they get a hold of you?
The quickest way to reach me is just follow my blog, larrywtaylor.org. That's larrywtaylor.org, and just read the postings and the news flashes and the radio flashes, etc. Just follow me through that.
Okay. Well, this has been just a wonderful show. I mean, we got into some areas that really needed to be said, and I really appreciate both of you guys coming on and sharing with the listeners, because this stuff is critically important. And it's too bad that so many people are asleep. Hopefully this will help wake them up, and I really appreciate both of you guys' ministry. So thank you for coming on, and
Thank you,
you'll have another one.
Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate it. God bless you, Larry, too.
God bless.
All right. Night.